Hello there fellow modelers, and welcome to part 3 of building the Supermarine Spitfire 1/48 scale by Eduard. Now in the last part we was looking at coming up to the point of starting decaling, so we're just now going to just cut these decals off, put them in some nice lukewarm water, and just leave them until they're just ready to move on their own. We're going to be using the Mr. Mark range here, starting with the setter. We apply this to the model first because it's going to create adhesiveness. It's going to start the softening process of the decal, and we can put a layer on top of that as well and just micro move it. After like a couple of minutes we can start to roll out any sort of air or moisture underneath the decal just to help it conform even better, and that's when we come in with the softer, which we keep on applying on top until it's kind of started to sort of wrinkle and it sort of shrinks into all the nooks and crannies. Hopefully you can see like the recessed panel lines and stuff. Now with a blade, using the weight of the blade, number 11 blade, we can just cut into where the recessed panel lines and add some more of that decking solution in there just to really get it to conform even better. Now there is a bit of residue left over, so you know, maybe a bit of spit and polish here just to clean it up, because it just can hinder the decaling process. And then we put another layer of gloss on top of that. Once it's dried, we can begin the weathering with some Flurry Models wash. This is basically a sludge wash. I apply 2 coats and leave half an hour between each coat. We can then rub this off with a damp cloth, and it just removes what's on the surface but leaves behind in the recessed panel lines and recessed rivets the wash, which really kind of brings out and makes our surface detail pop. Last little rub there where I'm going in the direction of flow. Cotton wool bud gets in all your nooks and crannies just to tidy that up and give that final professional look. Coming in with some super glue now. Any cheap super glue will do, a needle or something if you've need to sort of crack that open again. I like to put it on a little palette there, and RB Productions does a nice super glue applicator which we can carefully apply to any kind of landing gear, and just you want to sort of make sure you get everything lined up as well. I even dip my pieces on the palette as well, and again you got to kind of get that Mark 1 eyeball, sort of get that 90-degree angles and make sure they match up both sides so we haven't got like a bit of a wonky aircraft. I even like to come in with the super glue applicator and apply just a little bit more just to be on the safe side. And then we've got some iron breaker here, some Citadel paints. I do like these. Little bit of foam that you get from your aftermarket parts, and we can dip that and make it a bit like a dry brush, kind of like a dry sponge so to speak, so it just kind of dabbles a little bit of chipping, which we're going to do here, which I like to kind of where the pilots get in and out, you know, make that a little bit heavy around there just to add that bit of weathering. But then I also like to touch around the leading edges as well, and hopefully as you can see it kind of gives us that bit of a chipping going on there. I like to do it at this stage as well, because we're going to put a bit more weathering on top of this so it doesn't come out in your face too much. As you see, we can use the paintbrush and kind of get panels and do it in the corners of the panels where they're most likely to get scratched. I like to paint some bits there. Now we've got some dark mud and dust going on, which I'm just going to sort of dab this on here and there. This is like some nice oil brushy paints as well. I like using oils for kind of doing like a dusty, dirty look. With a brush that's completely dry, nothing on it, we can now just brush that in, sort of feather it nicely into our model, and it gives us sort of like this dusty look to it. It can be as light or as in your face as you want. As you can see, I kind of want it a little bit more, so I'm just adding a little bit more, and you can build it up and build it up as much as you want. Every now and then you just want to kind of brush on a kitchen paper towel just to get the excess off your brush, and we can sort of go around the edges now, and I just like to feather it in a little bit more so we've got no kind of stainy looking bits, and that should be quite nice and dusty. Now with the black we can do the same kind of thing but sort of represent soot coming out of our exhaust, and if you kind of really sort of again blend that in, we can get like a sort of a sooty, dusty exhaust trail thing going on just there as well. We can probably enhance that with like an airbrush later on if we wanted to. Ochre's a good one for like oil stains as well, and we can make these in a bit more of a streak rather than dabbing it on. And if we kind of like allow it to be on there more, we can really sort of make it more intense, and then we can sort of feather that in so we get that kind of long feathered streak look, as you can see. Really nice technique with those oils. Just coming out with some 18mm masking tape now. When it comes to doing the propellers, I like to sort of, you kind of get it lined up one side and then you line up the masking tape with the opposite masking tape, and you should have both sides all nicely lined up. We're going to start with white, right? When we do kind of like the yellow tips on our propellers here, the yellow will take forever to get good coverage when spraying it on black, so we really need to spray it white, because you will find that once you've got it white, the yellow will take maybe about 2 or 3 coats as normal. So very important just there. Just using the Vallejo paints as well, I do like using them. So as you see, a couple of coats there, remove the masking tape, and we've got our little yellow tips all sorted. So in with some pigment fixer now. This is where we're going to make a bit of a rusty looking set of exhaust tails. By painting on the pigment fixer and then putting the pigment on top, some nice rust pigment, it kind of allows us to create a texture, not just a colour. And I'm starting off with the lightest rust colour as well first, and then we kind of go medium rust, and then we go into an even darker rust as well. And again, we're kind of like dabbing it on big sort of blobs of the pigment as well as the pigment fixer, and it really does create a nice texture. The more you kind of sort of dab a bit more pigment on there, it kind of gives you that really cool texture. As I say, track rust is probably the darker rusty colour. I'm kind of being a bit lighter with this one as well, because we want to see the other lighter colours come through, so you don't want to just plaster it everywhere, and you get a really cool bit of rusty exhaust tails there. Now we're coming into sort of like a bit of a final post shading. Right, and I like to sort of make it about a good 95%, 90% thinners to paint, so it's really transparent, so you're not really going to damage your model, right? But we can sort of target those exhaust tails, we can do our flaps, ailerons, kind of make them look a little bit more dirtier, maybe even take a panel line like we're doing here just to make that a bit darker and dirtier. Even your decals haven't had much weathering, so I like to give them just a little misting over. Now we come along with Winsor & Newton's matte UV varnish, my favourite varnish for doing a matte coat, and that's going to get you looking all matte. It sort of brings out all the good stuff as well. I do like this stage a lot. So with the matte coat down, we can put all our little bits on as well, which I've already done. But some easy line is going to be a good product for, it's like an elastic band basically. We add a little bit of glue one end, and then we put the easy line on and just let that sort of set, and then we give it a little bit of a tug, nothing major, a little bit of a tug, and on the opposite end we add some more super glue. If you tug on your excess easy line, you can just come in with a blade and it'll just cut it perfectly right up to where you've glued it. In with some micro crystal clear now. We're going to sort of do any glass bits where we sort of use a cocktail stick and we just dab it in there, let the capillary actions basically paint it for you. Once that dries, it'll look crystal clear. And that's it. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching Eduard's 148 scale Spitfire. Really has been a joy to do this. Really do like kind of doing Spitfires myself. But if you are after any more scale modeling tips, techniques, videos like this, please go visit the Genesis Models website and support us over there. That is at genesismodels.co.uk. So as always, until next time, my name is Bob Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and I hope you've enjoyed.